have one more too. Okay. All right, thanks for everybody for coming out tonight on this cold, lovely Western PA evening. We all love. Let's stand and we'll start with the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence. Sarah, could you do the roll call, please?
Clifford Adams.
Here.
Patty Anderson.
Here.
Eric Gonzalez. Here. John Burke.
Here.
Brady Fife.
Here.
Diane Page.
Here.
Jeff Howe. Eric Selling.
Here.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is consideration to approve to waive the reading and then approve the official minutes from the January 13th, 2025 and February 10th workshop meetings and the voting meetings. Do I have a motion to do that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to public participation. Do we have any of that this evening? Could you please state your name?
Len Myers.
Thanks, Len.
Good evening, everybody. A couple things, and I actually wasn't going to speak tonight. But one, we all know where I stand on playing on the field. But 2, I learned some information about some on the field committee too, and I keep this thing, 2 things very separate. There's some exciting news that I'm going to stay for the whole board meeting. Just I'm that excited to hear what is going to be presented today. The only thing I did want to say is Act 1 index. We're looking at AC Valley at 7.1, Keystone is 7.7, and Union School District at 8.2. I'm not a fan of paying more taxes, but I do think for y'all to start looking at your budget and stuff, I would strongly encourage you to look to raise taxes and tell the public why. But we're significantly underfunded compared to the other schools. So that was the only other thing, but very excited when y'all hear the news from the committee.
Len, just a little bit of a correction. That was last
Yes.
year's index.
Okay.
We're actually looking at a 5.4 index this year.
Okay, so what is...
And just keep in mind too that we're in 4 different counties. So when we increase taxes, it doesn't go to the 5.4%
Okay.
or last year even 7.1. There's a equalization formula. So two counties normally go up a little and 2 counties come down.
So when I'm looking at the budget, when I look at that index, I don't necessarily look at the one number
It's broken down as different mills per county.
and not just the general, which is what they list too.
Yeah, like some schools that are in one county, they have the benefit of reaching all the index from that
Okay.
county, and we're not. We're the only school in the state that smack dab in the middle of 4 different counties. So we struggle with
Draw the
that.
county lines. Okay, but I appreciate it, but if we can, I think that if there's an opportunity to raise taxes, look, I claim all of my property as farm. I do everything under the law I can to pay the least amount of taxes on every piece of property I own around here. But if you're telling me I gotta pay a little bit more so our kids have the best of the best, and if we are, in comparison to my general number, which is wrong, that far under other school districts, I would strongly suggest increasing those taxes. So, thank you.
Thanks, Len. Any other public participation this evening? Okay, not seeing any. Do we have any presentations this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay, any board concerns? Not hearing any, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If you take a look at the consent agenda, would you let me know if there are any items you would like to be pulled to voted on separately? Anything that we need to pull to vote on separately? Okay, not hearing anything, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as a whole?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Patty, would you take us through finance and purchase, please?
Sure. Motion to approve an authorization to pay bills for February 2025. So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
To receive. I'm looking for the receipt for the receipts.
I'm sorry?
I'm looking for the receipts.
They would have been in your board packet.
Okay, got it. Okay, move to approve the report of receipts for January 2025. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
The activities report for January 2025, again, so moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
First program reports for January 25, so moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Can I group E and F together?
Certainly.
Move to accept the elementary activity account and the yearbook activity account for January 25, so moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Stacy's not here this evening. I think she's ill, so.
She can keep it, I don't want it again. Sorry.
Who isn't ill
Sorry,
right now,
Stacy.
right?
Hope you get well soon, Stacy. So skip that. Consideration to approve donating $600 to the Foxburg Free Library is attached, so moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? It's something that we do yearly to support them, because they do a lot for our students. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And finally, consideration to approve accepting the single water for the school year ending on June 30th, 2024, as presented by Mark Tonley, CPA. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thanks, Patty. Carrie, would you do personnel for us?
Sure. Item A, consideration to approve the severance agreement and general release between the district and Amber Allworth. The agreement was signed by Amber Allworth on January 20th, 2025. Amber has been on paid administrative leave since May 20th, 2024, and unpaid leave since July 12th, 2024. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Kelly, if I may, I assure you that, just like the AC Valley School Board, the administration makes the healthy and safe development of our students our top priority. I realize that there have been some comments on social media in which rumors are recycled, embellished, and loss of innuendo has been freely spread. I represent to you that my administration has taken all the steps regarding this situation involving this person that are required and advisable. I encourage the board to ratify this agreement, to put a closure to this situation, and to allow the district to focus on the actual challenges and opportunities at hand.
Thank you, Dr. McDevitt. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter B, consideration to approve advertising for a part-time athletic department secretary position. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
If we advertise, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to proceed. I know there's been some discussion about
Correct.
not proceeding with this position, but
Correct.
advertising isn't going to hurt, I guess, at this point.
Correct. I believe you're correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
that doesn't mean we have to move on anything.
Okay.
And I'd also like to make a recommendation that we have payroll added to this job description as well, because that's something I can support Aaron and the district office and maybe fulfill the obligation of this part-time secretary position.
So what payroll duties would you include in that, David?
Aaron?
I would include gathering timesheets, data entering it. She could possibly, or he could possibly, do reporting to the state to pay the teacher's pension retirement.
So this would be a pretty significant portion of what you do.
If
My
she-
concern is, if we're hiring a part-time secretary, especially in this capacity, that's giving them access to a lot of confidential district information that I don't feel comfortable, moving those duties. Calculating time cards and some data entry with limitations is one thing, but when you're giving somebody access to payroll for the district, that's a part-time secretary, I would not feel comfortable with that unless there were strict limitations and parameters put around that. But that's just my two cents.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Letter C, consideration to approve hiring Jackson Sunling upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as an assistant junior high boys basketball coach at a prorated supplemental salary of $760.50. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Do you have the sheet for him? Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to instructional services. Clifford, would you do that for us?
Dr. George, I like your book.
Oh, Mrs. Sherman.
Sherman, can I please have the elevator?
He's not a creature of habit at all.
Sure. So last Monday at the workshop, Dr. McDevitt mentioned the flexible instruction days and the considerations of those for next year, and asked us to elaborate on what we found out through the survey that we took. So for my building, when I took the flexible instruction survey with my staff, 74.3% of them were in favor of having flexible instructional days, which leaves 25.7% that were not in favor. The students was almost exactly the same. 74.8% were in favor and 25.2% not in favor. And that was my 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. Some notable input from the staff. Most of them agreed that for grades K through 3, at least, there should be packets, as the primary grades are not always able to get connected on their own without an adult present. They may be at a daycare or a grandparent's house for the day, and that they should have like 5 days to complete the work and turn it in afterwards, so that that adult has time to help them with that packet. So those would have to be made up ahead of time and sent home so that they have them at home to work from in the case of a flexible instruction day. The students' input, their biggest concern was what computer were they going to use, and we'd already talked about sending them computers from the school if they were using computers, or that they don't know how to do computer learning. So I thought that was an interesting input from them and something we definitely need to consider. I also reached out to the other elementary schools principals. 6 of them responded to me, and all but 1 indicated that they do use flexible instruction days. Some of them use them first, and then there's no makeup days, and some do the no makeup days first, and then the fit. It was about a 50-50 split. All but 1 of them did a blend of packets for the primary grades and Google Classroom for the intermediate kids. And the one who differed actually did all Google Classroom kids, K to 5 in their blend. So some things that I took away from the comments and what we looked at that we would need down here is figuring out how we count attendance for the day. The special education teachers especially were concerned about how do we meet the needs of the kids with IEPs. And I think that 5 days to complete the work and turn it in could be helpful there, because then if they weren't able to get the help they needed at home, they could get it at school when they came back and meet those needs. I would have to consult with Melanie on that, but that was an idea that we had. How do we do specialist classes online? The professional development for teachers, if we're going to be using Google Classroom. We did use it for COVID, but I think a brush up on that, and same for the students. Since some of the students concerned was they didn't know how to learn on computers. If we're going to go with computer instruction, then we definitely need to start teaching them again how to do Google Classroom and log into that themselves and find what they need. And then as always, the internet access for both students and teachers. I did have one teacher comment that she lives very remotely, and when we were doing COVID, she had to drive to McDonald's in order to use their Wi-Fi to teach. So that's also a consideration. So any questions about the flexible instruction information from the elementary?
I just have a question, and maybe this is for David, but I know we use that term, flexible instruction days, and we were having this discussion at the IU last week, that flexible instruction days, that term, there are very specific restrictions that surround flexible instruction days by the state. So a lot of schools were calling them virtual instruction days.
I think
So
remote
what's
learning.
the remote learning? So what can you just just tell me what the difference,
Yeah.
I know we say FID and we say
I
flexible
know there's a difference,
instruction,
but I'm
but.
gonna let him take that.
Yeah, I'll start off into it. Initially, when COVID hit, that was the term flexible instructional days that we submitted an application. Year one, we received it. And that was still tied into the 180 days, 990 hours. Now we have more flexibility with the school year. So a lot of schools are just calling it remote. We got an email
Okay.
from Kerry Rowe. We don't have to complete the flexible instructional days and all the requirements associated with that. We can offer our instruction any way we want.
Okay.
And this would be an option that we have in front of you.
Okay, they were just telling us, the districts, to steer clear of using that flexible instruction.
Yeah, I just use that
term.
because it's
Well,
what
I
we
used
had
it,
it
like,
before.
during the conversation, I kept saying that, when we were talking about the IU, and they were like, we have to watch not using that term, and I was like, what's?
And actually, I think the
What's
one
the
school who
difference?
told me they didn't use it actually does remote learning, who responded no, that they don't use flexible instruction days, because one of our teachers has a child who goes there, and she said she liked how her child schooled it, and I said, they told me they didn't do it. But I think it was the semantics of,
Okay.
they don't use the flexible instruction days, they call it something
Okay.
else.
Yeah, and we just have it on the
Okay.
calendar, remote learning days, to your point.
So it's different than what the state would define as a flexible instruction?
I guess, similar but different.
Okay, all right.
I guess they're just getting away from flexible instructional days altogether.
Okay.
You have to
Sorry.
take attendance and you have to provide the learning modality any way you choose.
Okay, thank you.
Lori, did you think at all about how we're gonna handle the busing situation? You know, because we had an issue last time, because if we take 3 or 4 flexible instruction days, or,
Yeah, so obviously that come up on these surveys. That
Alternates.
is something that we have discussed during COVID. I think we had that issue with, you know, their current contracts say 177 days. So we do need to look at, are we going to pay them 177 days regardless? Are we going to somehow word the contract to allow for those days off? Or, I mean, I think that's something we need to decide as a board, you know.
And that could be a
Yes.
significant impact for the contractor.
right,
Yeah.
they were, I know there was a big concern last time. And also the cafeteria, we had an issue with. How are we gonna pay them? How's that gonna work into this? So I think depending on how many days we look at, it might become an issue figuring out how all those pieces are gonna work together.
In COVID, we asked them to deliver supplies and lunches.
Right.
But, you know, one of the contractors pointed out, if we're calling the day because it's too bad out, she doesn't want to be called in on icy roads to deliver lunches.
Yeah, it was a different situation then.
Yeah, and I
you
said,
know.
obviously, we're not going to recommend anybody go out on icy roads for that, so we do have to consider, do they get paid for those days, or if we lose, you know, if we are remote, do we not put those days in their contract? And then if we don't use them, pay them per day at the end of the contract. I don't know, there's different things we have to look at.
Lori, do you know what the districts do that do remote learning days?
I do not, but I mean, I was focused on the
Oh,
instruction.
sure, yeah, I just didn't know if
surveys
you
that-
talk about education directors.
But I could, that's a different email group, but I can email them and ask.
I was just curious,
What
if
do
they
they-
don't pay them, or if they give like a prorate for the day, like lesser amount, you know, like full pay, or?
Yeah.
And probably for the cafeteria workers too, how that would work to make sure that they got all of their contracted days in.
Yeah.
Could we ask Stacy to reach out to her network of cafeteria directors and see how they handle remote learning days?
Yeah, because I think that's something we're gonna have to figure out
Sure, yeah.
before we implement how we want it. Because last time we kind of had to implement and then we were running after the ball trying to figure out how this is all gonna work. And it was just a necessity we had to do. But we have time now that if we're gonna implement next year, we can figure all these pieces out and it's upfront for everybody, so.
Would that be in the next contract?
Could be. Could be.
Yes, and that's what we're, working on, so that's, yeah, good timing. So,
That affect the maintenance folks too?
Now, they're busy regardless. They worked all day.
I
so
have
they
a
would come
question.
in.
Yeah.
I have a question on the 25% that we're opposed to it. So is there a way to resurvey that subset to see if it's a connectivity issue, a human issue?
I know
or-
for staff, several of them were, like, concerned about the learning support aspect of it.
Mhm.
How do we meet those needs virtually? You know, when they were a special content area that's hard to deliver in a virtual manner, so.
So
I think
can we
that's-
create like a problem-solving group on that subset?
Sure, and I think that's like our next steps, you know, if this is the
And I think the other piece of that is the, I don't wanna call it option, because you can't really do Google Classroom optional, but, an option for the, because I haven't had internet in 2 weeks, and they don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it on my phone, I can hotspot it, but I'm really mad at the service provider that's getting money out of me. So, you know, like, there's pieces there that are, we should be able to resolve those maybe too. So,
Yeah, one other thing is we have to decide, are we looking at synchronous or asynchronous? You know, are they gonna meet, like the high school, are they gonna meet with each period, take attendance, and require the kids to meet with them all day long?
And I think that's different elementary and high school too, because.
Yes.
I agree.
Like if elementary kids are in the daycare, they can't get on, you know, at a set
Yeah.
time to be in class,
But it'd be nice to get the teachers involved in this and see what they think's gonna work best.
yeah, that's for sure our next step is getting together a group of teachers and admins and all the stakeholders in it to see how we best deliver that, if that's the direction we're going.
And the internet issues, those people would probably get packets.
That's what we did during COVID too. And honestly, there was fewer than we would have thought at that time.
Yeah, because they can get on their phone on Google
well,
Classroom.
it depends on who's got the connection, right?
Yeah.
If you got the kid with the flip phone, which is the current suggestion for the under 13 crowd, it's not gonna do hotspot more than good, you know?
As part of our contract negotiations, one of the things we discussed was with what they want to call paraprofessionals now. We call them student aides or whatever. What's their status if we do a remote learning day or whatever we want to call them?
Maybe like the cafeteria workers, I mean.
Well, during COVID, they still did their job. Like, they would get on one-on-one with the student, either virtually or with them or whatever, and give them that support. Because we had to figure that out during COVID too, because we had several of them. So it was kind of like the special ed teachers.
Yeah, if
And
you do
honestly,
Google
in special
Classroom,
ed-
they can be part of Google Classroom and be involved in the lesson, so.
Yeah, they did a lot of, the special ed department, they did a lot of one-on-one during COVID. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good solution.
I know when that all happened, we had the state gave us all a license for webinars and all that kind of stuff, which we don't have is quite as much capability. I mean, we may have to look at increasing that. I know we did a little bit for our board meetings, but I don't know if that pertains to.
I think that came from PSBA for a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
Virtual.
I know somebody at the
Yeah.
state level did that for the whole district, or the whole state, so.
Does that happen now? Because actually that was mentioned a little bit different maybe than what you're talking about, Kelly, but it was mentioned at the IU, how are we able to deliver special ed virtually? Or somebody mentioned that there were certain certifications that people had to hold in order to deliver instruction, not face-to-face, especially with someone with an IEP.
That would be a Melanie.
Yeah,
Welcome.
previous district, we've done this before, so some of the solutions were to make sure that there's access to support throughout the day. We talked a little bit the other day about that as well. Having like a section of a day, an hour where students can check in and receive the supports, so that we're still in compliance with that. And as far as like being highly qualified for that, your teachers are highly qualified with the support on the side.
So there isn't any special certifications that anybody would have to hold?
No, and I think we just go back to COVID, right? Because our teachers were teaching even our at-risk students at that point, right? Just making sure that we were still giving them the accommodations. And just back to the paraprofessional comment, now that I'm chimed in here, a lot of those paraprofessionals like had to do the work, all the legwork previous to that, right? So they made all the modifications on the packets. They were doing all of those kind of things to prepare for those days, so that when those days came, those things were already set, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Google Meets, I don't know, Aaron, is there a limit on a Google Meet?
Not that's gonna affect us.
Okay, good. So that's one way they could virtually meet, like you said, if they meet by periods, or meet once a day for a half hour in the elementary school, have a Google Meet, and the paraprofessionals can be part of that, so. That's all something that's gonna be worked out.
And I think that's why it's good that we're talking about it now, so we can get
Yes.
that worked out before next year.
thank you guys for doing all that work with the surveys too.
So in other news, I wanted to give a shout out to our sixth grade girls basketball team. They participated in the Clarion Elementary's Cupid tournament this past weekend and won the championship. So that was good for our elementary girls. And as you're going out tonight, or maybe on your way in, you noticed a giant gold football in our office on the counter. That is the Dress World Champions trophy from our youth football team who won the Super Bowl this fall. Did I call it right? So they allowed us to display that on the counter. You know, the kids have been able to get a good, all the kids, not just the football players, have been able to get a look at that, so. And then just a few thank yous. Steve and Georgine Morris at Foxburg Pizza hosted us for our Superstar Luncheon for Q2, which was something new for our superstars. And they absolutely loved going down there and getting taken out for the day and having that. So the Morrises were very much in favor of hosting us in the future too. So we're very thankful to them for giving us that opportunity. And on Friday, a couple members of the bocce team came down to greet the students. We only ended up with a couple because we had the 2-hour delay Friday and that messed up some things for people and they couldn't get here. But we appreciated the 2 that still came and the kids really enjoyed high-fiving them. Also, a shout out to my Read Across America committee. They are currently planning for our Dr. Seuss celebration. His birthday is on March 2nd, and every year there is a Read Across America celebration for that. We are actually going to have our celebration here on February 28th, and they're planning a full day of activities for the students. And my last shout out is to Mrs. Thurber. She organized what we call the February Friendly Falcon campaign. So kind of in conjunction with our PBIS program and promoting positive behaviors, she came up with the Friendly Falcon campaign, and all through the month of February, they've been earning little paper hearts, a different color each week with a different theme each week. So like the first week was kind words. If teachers heard you using kind words with your peers, you got a heart in that color. And each classroom has a chart outside where they post all their hearts, and then at the end, they will get an award for filling their chart with hearts. So that was a great bonus to our PBIS program, and I appreciate that she took that on and initiated that. So and that's my report for today.
Thank you. With your secretary this time? Just briefly on the virtual learning, the numbers at the high school were very similar. I do like to put in my surveys for students anyhow the option of I don't care, because to be honest, there are that group of students that they really don't care whether we do virtual learning or whether we just add a snow day at the end of the school year. So a good percentage of the high school staff would prefer to use remote learning after we use up those built-in snow days. In regards to the professional development, a lot of them feel confident in their ability to do that, but at least 43% would like some kind of, I guess, more modernization as far as their skills and things like that. I know it sounds simple to say, but remote learning at the high school level with students does look quite different than with the elementary. There are a lot more things to consider as far as, once you make sure that you take attendance, getting kids engaged in some form of instruction, and then turning them loose on their own. Fortunately for us at the high school, having almost 100% inclusion makes it good for those students with disabilities that they have access to a teacher in that classroom, and they can do breakout groups or whatever the case may be to help them spend a little more time one-on-one. The difference at the high school also is this, and whenever I started to build my team and started to look at what specifically we're going to do and how we're going to handle those things, you have core content areas, and then you have what I call alternate contents, phys ed, shop class, FNCS, family consumer science, courses like that it's very difficult to do direct instruction and then have them do a Google Doc of some sort or some activity, based upon that direct instruction.
So for them, I would like them to develop some way of, meeting the needs of students in their content. I've spoken with a lot of principals about what they do on these types of days, and almost all of them require some form of direct instruction, 10 minutes or so of that, and then activities in which they can engage the kids one-on-one, or kids can go on their own and do an activity with the teacher. They do have to meet just like they would in a regular schedule. The young man that lives with me, he goes to Brookville, and that's exactly what they do. He knows when to log on, he gets some instruction, and then he does an activity. So that's probably what we would consider as well. The kids at the high school just aren't as excited to see the teacher or talk about school as what elementary kids are. So that's the challenge, engaging them, getting their attention, and keeping them engaged for at least a short period of time, instead of them logging off. Oh, I have internet issues. Log off and then go do something else like gaming or whatever the case may be. I did want to address, though, and I know that this is a concern. This is my concern as a parent, that, is virtual instruction as good as face-to-face? So in other words, if we throw those days at the end of the school year and we have face-to-face, is that as good as a virtual instruction day? In most cases, I would say, no, it's definitely not. But this is just my opinion here, and I think that I have a lot of principals that I've talked with that would say the same thing. Once statewide testing is done, kids are done. So if you throw all those days at the end of the school year after state testing, I would say virtual learning, to be honest, is better than that. Because come June, nobody wants to be there. Those kids don't want to be there. It's hot in that building. Teachers they're all hot. It's tough to teach, and it's just a lot more difficult. If we had more time earlier in the year, it would be good. But that's the case in my opinion. I think bang for buck, the virtual learning is the way to go to at least capture a little bit of that, especially if we use that time for remediation or even going over some pre-learning that they've had earlier in the year, getting them ready for testing. So that's my take on the remote learning. I do plan on picking, I have a couple teachers in mind to take the lead on training my own staff, because I think that a couple of them do a really good job even now, and I think that they have more power than if we invite somebody in to try some fancy mode of virtual instruction. So that's kind of the snapshot of what we're doing.
So at the high school, I agree that learning's a little different on that level, but if you follow back on your comment on the remediation or like a review piece, is there opportunities for teachers to team up and do some teaching that might cross disciplines and allow
Absolutely.
that strengthening of reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever it might be, and then your not like you said, family consumer science, the PE, and I can't remember what the third one was, but those ones, I think you can like bring me what you cooked over the time you were there and have a bake sale, whatever. Like there's
Sure.
some creative ways that you could probably throw that in. Some I wouldn't want to eat necessarily, but you might. But I think that that's a way to throw that fun back in for those kids that don't care. And I had a kid that probably would have answered that way because they'd have done their work regardless. But you've got that segment of don't care because they don't care as well. So trying to get something to encourage that caring aspect of it and building engagement back as they come back. What did I learn? I mean, yoga, mindfulness, there are things that they could practice in multiple disciplines that might come back and reap a benefit. Maybe not, maybe I'm all wet, but I think it has opportunity.
I think there's absolutely opportunity. And there's opportunity for us as an organization to grow in that capacity. If we can shake off the negative feelings that we had around COVID and that whole thing, and think of it more as just just another avenue of being able to teach kids, then we could move forward, come up with more creative ways. Back in the COVID days, I mean, we were just mucking through the mud, trying to get to the end, and hoping that it was good at the end. And so I think it's going to be an opportunity for us to grow.
And to jump in at COVID, it was day after day after day, and we didn't know how long it was going on. This is gonna be a day here, a day there. Hopefully.
So it could be an exploration of some sort.
Dr. Jordan, you said that most of your staff wanted to do them at the end, or give them, no?
No, 78% want to do, once we have the 3 built-in snow days.
Right.
Use them, they want to do the flexible instruction.
So not clear at the end of the school year, though?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding that part? Also, in your seat, I did place a little packet. This is the AP Spanish curriculum. I've been talking with Mrs. Paz for a while now about having AP Spanish. I have a number of students that are interested in AP Spanish. Of course, I talked about the difficulty in scheduling and putting in another class. So what we plan on doing is every other year or every 3rd year having AP Spanish in place of Spanish 4. Currently, right now, we have Spanish 4 as our top level of Spanish. But we have some kids that are interested in continuing instruction and education after school, after graduation, in Spanish. And we thought that this would be a great way to help them kind of drive that instruction further. For all of you that are fairly new to the board, I haven't had an AP curriculum in front of you for a while. Normally, curriculum, of course, is something that you control and that you can give your blessing on. When it comes to AP, they have very strict controls on their curriculum. They're very specific about what the big ideas are, what the objectives of the instructional framework looks like, and so there's not much I could do to change this. There are other AP curriculums out there, but Mrs. Paz thought this is the one that fits AC Valley best based upon Spanish 1, 2, and 3.
Bill,
That
can you
makes sense.
refresh my memory? How are the tests administered for the AP tests? Are they done at AC Valley, or do the kids have to go
They're done
elsewhere?
at AC Valley.
Okay.
At the end of the year, actually, Mrs. Lowe finds out ahead of time who wants to take the AP exam. And of course, there's a fee attached to it.
Yeah.
And once students sign up and pay that fee, then we set up the testing right in our high school.
I couldn't remember how that went.
So if that's a year you're not offering AP Spanish 4, could they sit in it but not have to, if they choose not to take the AP test, the students?
Yes. Yeah, the test is not a requirement for any kid. They can take the AP class and not take the test, or, to be honest, they could take the AP test whether they sat in class or not. Probably wouldn't fare too well, but, that's just how they have it set up. AP, this is not my opinion here, they just like that money coming in, and that awareness as an AP course.
And then the students get, is it 3 credits?
They can get a college credit.
1 credit?
Yes.
Okay.
If they get a 3 or
Depends
better.
on the school and the
Depending on the
score.
score.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
sometimes it
Yes,
depends on
yes.
the college, whether they
Yeah.
take it or not,
And the college, yes.
which sometimes they don't because it's money out of their
Money out of their
pocket.
pocket,
Yeah.
yeah.
How many students do you expect to take this class? Probably 5. Our average goes up and down each year for the higher levels of Spanish, but we've had more interest in the higher levels of Spanish the last couple of years. Along with, since we're talking about curriculum, one thing that's required next year for all high schools across Pennsylvania is financial literacy. I have had Mrs. Patton and Mrs. Raybuck working on that curriculum. They told me as of last week that they're close. So I hope to have that for the board's consideration to see it next month, and then the month after to get your approval of that. Please take this packet home. You can look that over. I mean, if you know a lot of Spanish, there's quite a bit in there. But I will ask for this approval of this curriculum for next month. And one more point, just an athletic kind of note. We did have bocce for the first time at AC Valley this year, and to be honest, it was just fantastic. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you'll have to wait till next year, but it was great to see the community come in and to see that inclusive environment in an athletic setting with students just enjoying themselves and having a good time. So, you know, I want to thank all the people that were involved in that, and I can't wait till next year. And that's my report.
Mr. Sherman, you have an athletic report?
A few items here tonight. I want to reiterate what Dr. Jordan just mentioned, but we did finish up our season with Unified Bocce, our first ever. All winter sports have wrapped up, basketball, varsity boys and girls. Our junior high basketball team, boys, is still currently playing games. This past weekend, they competed at a tournament at Red Bank on the A level, the A team. We weren't able to go to the B tournament on Friday. We had to reschedule a game with Montauk, so that limited the possibility of them being able to go. The varsity girls recently, I think it was March 1st, conducted the first youth clinic at the high school. And the participants that came to the youth clinic were able to go to the last varsity game and warm up with the girls. So I think they were pretty excited about that. It was pretty well attended. Our competitive cheer team competed at the state championship on January 31st. I've watched them off and on over the years, and hands down, in my unqualified opinion, it was their best routine that they've turned in. And because of that, they were able to earn a 12th place in the co-ed division. So that's going up against schools like Erie, McDowell, Butler. It's kind of crazy. That co-ed division is kind of weird. There aren't really any classifications in that, so we have to go up against the biggest of the big. So that's a testament to the girls and the coaches and everything that they put into that program. We're currently preparing for spring sports. Sign-up sheets have been up and taken down. We're putting the rosters together. First practice for spring sports is March 3rd. Lulu Cano, she's begun prepping all the physical materials, determining what athletes need physicals, which ones need recertification papers. So we're in the process of that. And in the next couple of weeks, planning to sit down with Scott Kindle, Union's athletic director, and start working out practices and transportation and gym availability and all those things for our spring sports. So that's what's on the table. I don't think I missed anything, but if anybody has any questions, feel free.
Thank you. Consideration to approve the co-op coaches staffing plan as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Hey, question report, please.
Sure. Good evening. Currently, we have about 37 students at Westview. Keep in mind that those students, around the Christmas time, the judge must have been very happy and festive. We discharged quite a few of them. I want to say about 7 or 8, but not all of them go home. Some go home, some transfer, some have a step-down unit, and then just as quick as they go, we get intake. So I know sometimes I come here, the numbers seem a little high, they seem a little low, other times, but we're constantly getting students in. Yeah, just, I don't have anything major to report, but we're continuing to upgrade our curriculum. Kristen's been a big help with that. Trying to get out of the online instruction and doing more direct instruction. We had met with the staff on a regular basis to go over what we're looking at, more direct instruction techniques, working with the ROP staff as well as our own staff. And that's going really well. We're in the process of ordering new curriculum. We're also tightening up on classroom rules, which we instituted on February 3rd, trying to get all the classrooms on the same page as far as, what structure happens in this room should happen in every every other, and it's going very well so far. You know, without having to micromanage all the teachers, we did come up with procedures and protocols that we asked them to follow, and myself as well as other administrators, as well as ROP administration is frequently in the classroom and enforce that. And the students have responded very well. You know, I'm a big believer in students like structure, even our students who sometimes combat that, but they do like that structure, and really trying to put a positive twist on the education side, because you know, considering the lives of some of these students and what they deal with and, you know, what they have lived so far, you know, in their teenage years, unfortunately, it's not been a lot of positive things. So, you know, we're really focusing a lot more on, you know, when we have graduates, and we're now doing an honor roll, we're doing more celebrations for those things of the students that earn it. Most recently, we added positive phone calls home to parents. Up until then, the only calls they would get home would be from, you know, ROP if someone, you know, was misbehaving and, you know, they were in a restraint or something like that. So we're really trying to focus more on the positive. We have student of the month, things that they never had before. So they're really buying into that, and they're really excited when they'll go, did I get honor roll? Did I get honor roll? And and then with that, they get, you know, we'll have like a special meal for them or a snack, or I think we had ice cream sundaes for the last honor roll. So it's going very well. You know, it's an ongoing process of constantly revising, improving the protocols. You know, I want to thank everyone up here as well as David. It's been a huge help for me, you know, coming in, being new, and, you know, just bouncing ideas off of everyone, as well as me and Julie, you know, coming to the building on a regular basis. We have a monthly, weekly Thursday meeting for our admin team down there, and it's really been enjoyable to watch the progress. Also, our vocational program is really kicking off, and we're really excited about that. In fact, they're going to come and present next month. So I'm very excited for you to see how far they've come. And it's funny because sometimes they'll say, we don't think we've come far. And then I go, look at my first day, like what we were doing and what we're doing now. So it's really been enjoyable to watch them grow and watch the kids go over there and how much more they're doing it and learning in the process. And we continue to add more tracks into their curriculum and how we can help them with the transition from, you know, graduating, leaving Westview and walking out into the world and getting a job, and how we can help them. So they'll discuss that next time. But, yeah, very excited about it. A lot of good things going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Go to program report, please.
Sure.
Oh, hold on, Ms. Long, sorry. Consideration to approve the 25-26 Westview calendar as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, Ms. Murray.
No problem, thank you. You know, Meg is always a tough act to follow. I did have to take her aside after the last board meeting and said, enough of the trinkets, please, until they have vocations and come down here and present. So I'm excited for next month as well, to see the vocations side come down here and present and talk to you about what's going on, because it really is phenomenal and what's happening up there. So thank you, Meg, for taking it easy on me this time. I don't have a lot to report on federal programs. You may recall from last month, the ESSERS grants and all of the sub-grants that go along with that are all said and done. We were just waiting on one of our FERs to be approved. It was, so we are officially all good to go with that. Erin and I, along with Michelle Austin, are going to do a little work on some reporting that we still have to finish up based on PIMS and things like that, but we're good to go as far as our FERs are. So that was exciting. Nothing new to report in the titles. Our Ready to Learn grant, that is all being used and paid out for our reading specialist and AmeriCorps and our kindergarten teachers, so that's all good to go. The PCCD grants, also nothing new to report. As of last month, we were using the money from, the PCCD grants, no movement on that yet. We are still waiting on our second school police officer. We're going to make a move for that. Wait until next year, that's up for discussion. So I think the plan is to wait until next year and hire the new school police officer out of those funds, along with our mental health specialist. The only other thing that I have to report on is that that grant lead on application. Still no movement on that. I did make a contact with PDE, and they assured me that there had been no action, nothing awarded yet. They're just very behind on that. So I'm still very hopeful and that we get that. And just as a reminder, that allocation is $500,000. So fingers crossed. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you.
Sure.
District Board?
Thanks, Cliff. This evening, I'm going to focus most of my report on finances. We're going to start off by letting the school board know that I did submit the Pittsburgh Steelers Foundation grant of $250,000 for an updated football field. And also to build off of Mrs. Thurber and her auditorium grant, I have some information for you this evening about potentially extending our bond. And before I get into the details of that bond, I'd like to give you a little bit of history about the elementary school here and our original bond. Just keep in mind that Dr. Lucas Savage had consolidated the school district into 2 buildings on 1 campus because he knew we had a declining student enrollment. He used both Plan-Com money and a bond to build this building. In 2018, we paid off that bond and we extended it until March of 28. So we only have a few years left, about $475,000 per year. And the proposal that I have in front of the school board this evening is budget neutral, so it's not expanding on that payment, but what it's doing is giving us the ability to tackle some of these projects. Keep in mind, in 2018, we took care of roofs, we took care of HVAC systems, plumbing, windows, ceiling tile. We did everything behind the scenes that we didn't actually see. And we put off some of the projects, such as our athletic fields, the auditorium, the parking lots, the track, and such. I'm not sure exactly how much it would cost to renovate those programs, but with your support, I could start looking into that a little bit more deeply. But for the sake of this evening's conversation, I'd like to direct your attention to the blue packet in front of you. It's from Janie Montgomery, our current bondholder. And I talked to Tim Franz, and he said that we're in the perfect opportunity to refinance. If you turn to page 3, you can see that we have 4 years remaining on that bond at roughly $475,000 per year. His proposal starts off on page 5. You can see that he gave us information on a $2, $3, $4, and $5 million bond extension, which is budget neutral. You can see on page 6, the original bond in 2018 was just over $3.6 million, and we have an outstanding balance of 1.7. We could gradually pay that off if you turn to page 9, and this is an example. If we were to extend that bond out for $5 million, that would be roughly a 20-year extension. That's still the $475 million, and you gradually pay off the original bond, and then you still stay within the 20-year warranty that we have with the McClure Act 39 energy efficiency project that we originally took out in 2018. We also have the option on page 12, and you can see that's roughly 15.5-year bond for $4 million. On page 15, we have the $3 million bond, which is about a 12-year extension. And then also we have on page 18, a $2 million bond, which is just over 8 years. And again, keep in mind that's budget neutral. Not exactly sure how much it would take to dive into all those projects, but I'd like for the school board to strongly consider that, and I could get out there and get some preliminary numbers and then share that with you next month. And then if we did choose to do so, I did talk to Tim about making that bond upgrade, and he said it would take about 75 days, which would put us in line for the 25-26 school year. And I think it would be a great learning opportunity for James. I think Aaron and I have the skills and the experiences that we could dive into a project like this with your support, and just wanted to share that information with you this evening. Any questions or comments at this time?
So Dave, when you say extending out, would it be starting from like the 25-26 school year, or at the end of the 28 when the bond has been paid off?
It kind of, it layers itself down. So we'll extend it starting with the 26 school year, and then we'll be paying off the old bond and adding money to it.
Okay.
And then depending on how long we go out, it kind of cost averages down. And I could have Tim here, he can explain it probably in much more detail than what I can right now.
I did ask the question when we had our meeting. The current bond is at 3 or 3.5%.
Yeah.
The new bond rate right now would be 4 to 4.25%.
Which is still a pretty good rate considered.
I would have thought it would have been more.
Yeah, me too.
I personally think this is an awesome way for us to tackle those big projects that have to be done. We need them to be done. We need a new football field. We need to bring that back to AC Valley. We need a new auditorium for our kids. That hasn't been renovated probably since the high school was built.
1965.
And I think it's a way that, because it's budget neutral, you know, we're not absorbing that entire cost all at once, which is more than we can, you know, it's a bigger bite than we can chew in any one given budget. So I think this is a really good option for us to do some of those things. And I think depending on what the projected costs come back at, you know, we have options to start with at least.
I agree with you, Carrie, that the only terminology I am worried about is the budget neutral part, because that part is fixed, that's budget neutral, but the other parts are moving. So, and that's a concern that I think someone else in the public comments, excuse me, has perhaps cracked that door open as to something that we need to discuss.
I think the one area that we can bat that concern with is the fact that, you know, we do have a resort, we have a number of houses being built right next door, and, yeah, if everything works out well, it should greatly increase our tax base coming in here. Again, that's if or when.
And the pressure is on the two on the end that like to switch seats, you know, here to have the kids have that high enough learning to be back to invest in the community and continue that growth.
Yep, you're
So
right.
that, for me, that's a big piece.
The only thing that concerns me is the number of years. We're looking, how many years? 30? 30 more years?
Well, it'd be over 20 years if we were to go out $5 million. And again, we just chose that as the top end of it. And depending on which bond we choose, you know, a $2 million bond would go out 8.5 years from 26 moving forward.
But if things go favorably, we could pay it off earlier. There's no penalty for that. So if this whole project does increase our revenue.
Yeah.
So I think the way to look at it, instead of here's your depth of time, we all drive a car. And nobody lives beside, well, very few of us, myself included, live beside our workplace. So you have to have a car. So there's that investment. You will have that investment till you cease to drive, right? This is kind of the same thing, till we cease to have a school. Do we intend to have a school? I think everybody here is saying, yes, we're trying to do that and figure out how that works. Therefore, that length of time is just a reinvestment back in. That's what bonds are about. I mean, and I have nothing to do with this company. I'm just simply saying we've got to do something to get revenue generated for this school district so that we can make decisions to keep high-quality staff, inspire our students, and do the things that we need to do to have that happen. So.
I'd be interested in looking at maybe some prices on different things.
Okay.
That wouldn't cost us anything, correct?
We can get preliminary numbers, rough numbers, give us a better idea. I'm not sure what that auditorium would cost, but if we do get the grant, you know, there's $500,000 we're going to save. If we get the other grant for the football field, I mean, there's a significant savings there. But if we look worst case scenario, I can present information to you.
And the other piece of that is the nonprofit side of it, in terms of using your endowment to be able to help to sustain and fulfill those as well. So that community involvement, that advertising that there's a way to do gifts and giving, because our aging population is going to, and I guarantee you, is greatly going to change and look at that in the next 10 to 15 years as well.
Obviously, we're an education business here, you know, that's our main priority, but we need to, you know, facilities are very important to us too, you know. Like John said a few meetings ago, if you don't have a good foundation, above it doesn't matter. So, you know, obviously the investment into the auditorium, however many moons ago, has paid for itself. Yes, it's been declining, but it's, you know, it's to the point. It seems like the other things on the agenda, parking lot included, you know, are declining and we need to do something now. Obviously, 20-some years is a long time. Like you said, it's an investment that if you can stay budget neutral or in the black, all is well as in well. Definitely would like to, as a board, figure out a wish list. You know, you could dump $10 million into an auditorium very quickly, or you could dump $500,000 into it and, you know, greatly renovate it. So I definitely, you know, would like to see the different option plans before, you know, we decide if we want to or what numbers to borrow. So
Needs to have a strategic plan behind it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think what we'll have to do is get an architect or a firm in here to evaluate and then give us an idea of a ballpark figure for what we want to complete. Because that's going to determine how much we borrow, so.
So on the mechanics of the bond, I guess, say we determine we need 2.5. Do we get 2.5 million, or do we have to go like 2 million, 3 million, and then?
No, I'm sure we could tailor make it. I just have some rough numbers for you tonight, John.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if we have 2.5 million, then it's gonna be probably at the maybe 3 million rate that he has here.
Yeah.
And that could change depending on what happens in the next 6 months too. You know, it's fluid, so.
Yeah, Chris.
and if, you know, if things were to be in motion and money's already borrowed, you can always pay it back. You know, if grants
Right.
come through,
Early,
yeah, so, like you said, there's no penalty to pay it off early.
No, if things work out in this area with this new resort,
Hang on, principal.
Lord willing, we can pay it off and, you know, early, so.
But, like you said, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I agree with Cliff. I think we need to either have a committee or as a board come together and decide what we wanna do.
For sure.
I would just throw in that I think we need to act on this sooner rather than later, just because things like the football field have been sitting here. We need to get some traction and make some movement, you know, if we want to, you know, these things take time. So the sooner we can jump on them, the sooner that we can get a head start getting these projects completed. So, do you have a time frame, David, for, you know, in your mind with getting these estimates and kind of getting a plan put together to?
I'll do my best to have information to you before the March school board meeting and dive into it. I know James has some information to report on the football field, but we had a company come in to take a look at it and said if we could get it renovated, put the sod down, we could play in the fall.
Good.
So that would be really aggressive with that, but it's something that we could phase in as far as the plan.
Okay.
So I'll get working on it. I agree with your thoughts as far as getting a committee and fine tuning exactly, but I could give you ideas whether it be 2 million or 5 million, you know, to tackle some of these big ticket items. And if we get the grant, you know, that I talked about earlier, great. And I also seen the governor's budget proposal that the facilities grant is back in there as well. So we'll write that grant as well if it makes it to the final stages of the budget. All right, well, I'll get working on it. Before I finish, Cliff, just an update on the Clarion County reassessment. On January 3rd, Aaron, Kelly, and myself went up to Clarion area. We met with Tim Schramm from PASBO. He presented information to us on the reassessment. He's done this across the Commonwealth on a regular basis. He said as a school district, we're going to expect to be budget neutral with that as well. Meaning a third of the reassessment going to go up, a third will remain the same, and a third will go down. So he shared that information with us so that as we're planning for the future and we're thinking about that tax assessment, that we shouldn't be banking on extra money coming in. We should be moving forward. And the other piece that he really emphasized is the Clean and Green program. And I did talk to Kelly about that, and I know Patty is aware of it as well. It's really important that these people who are eligible go out and complete that application. Not only is it going to save them money, but it's going to provide us a base that we can build our taxes off. It would be a negative impact on the school district if our local constituents don't fill out that application until a year or 2 years down the road, whenever they see the significant cost that they're not saving. So it's really important if everybody's eligible to go ahead and complete that application. That's part of the Pennsylvania Farmland and Forest Land Assessment Act of 1974. Kelly, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No,
on
it's
that?
just the idea that we want to know, we need a defined tax base we don't want people applying for that the second year, because we're gonna set our tax rate based on what we know. And if they apply for that and then the money's lower, that's money we've lost in the long run because of the mills we set. So he encouraged everybody that, you know, to make sure if they're eligible, that we let them know they need to fill that out, and it's beneficial. I mean, I'm looking at it, we're gonna do it. There's like an $80 fee, and there's some limitations of what you can do, but it's not bad, so it's something I think that you need to encourage people to look at. And it's gonna save them a lot in their tax money, and it's not hurting us as a district when they do that.
Is that something we can put out on our website? Is it on our website?
We can put a link to the actual forms, which are on the county
Right.
assessment pages, so.
Yeah.
But if you know anybody who has land that would qualify, this gentleman encouraged us to make sure those people get that application in if they're gonna do it, so,
There was a couple of just quick qualifications, 10 acres,
yes.
what are the other?
10 acres agricultural or forestry. If it's less than 10 acres, I think it's $2,000 you have to make a year. And I think the other requirement is, once you sign up, you're limited to how much of that land you could sell. It's like 10%
Gotta go
of the
backwards on
total.
the taxes if you do.
Yeah, or they have to pay the back taxes.
Okay. Thank you.
But it does save a lot on your tax bill. I know when we got those assessments, there was a line that said how much it would be if you apply for clean and green versus if you don't, so. Now, they have extended the deadline. Usually it's June, but they've extended it to October 15th. But I know when we looked at it, they encouraged us to try and get it in the summer, you know, by at least July. And the sooner people can do that, it helps us too as we're developing a budget, so. I don't think the counties pushed it like they should have, because
They're not
they
going to.
indicated that
They
the
think they're
numbers
gonna
were really
lose.
down under what they thought they would have apply. So I think it's gonna be on the school districts to push that and let people know that that's available.
Could you say again, how does this impact our taxes?
Because if we get an assessment, or we get a tax base that's a lot higher than what it's gonna be in year two,
It locks your tax in. So
locks-
like my tax, it lock within, it's gonna lock it in that this is the amount, it's not gonna go up, but it's not gonna go down.
Okay.
And then if you sell, depending on what happens to it, will change your tax rate, your Venega rate.
but I think what you're
It's
meaning
already
is, how
gone.
does that affect the district, John?
Okay.
It's because as we set our millage and we look at what amount of money that we can bring in with certain mills, if we go by, let's say 10 people, or this is just a rough, if 10 people are in clean and green the first year, okay, we look at that amount and we set our millage. And this is the way I understood it, you can explain it different if I'm
No, you're
incorrect.
good.
So the second year, 30 more people apply for that, or 300 people.
'Cause you know how
Then the
that
basis that we
really
set our millage on is gonna drastically change.
It's going to drop.
And so it's hard for us to determine our millage if it's best, if all that is set up ahead of time, all those people that apply for that tax rebate is set up before we determine what we're gonna
So
look
for
at.
us, we're just establishing pretty much a known baseline. It's-
Right.
It's stable.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
because we're building our budget, you know, the revenues and expenditures, they have to equal out after that.
And like I said, and like they mentioned at the meeting, it's pretty much tax neutral, or it's neutral for us as far as income, because it's just realigning. I think everybody thinks that the school taxes, the real estate taxes are gonna go sky high because of this reassessment. But it's, the way they explained it, it's gonna balance out a third even, and so the district's not gonna get more money out of this, it's just who is gonna be giving what part of that money.
And
Does that make sense?
How many are gonna challenge? So like it's all a checkerboard. So that part would be fixed.
Could we advertise in the paper too?
There was a couple different articles that was written in the Clarion News, and Clarion Area actually spearheaded that discussion, and it was the same as what we have going on today.
They're actually gonna hold I thought, a community meeting. That might be something, I don't know if we'd have any interest in that or not, but I thought Clarion was gonna hold something for their parents and all those involved to kind of give them an idea of how this is all working, so. it is very complex, and when we were at that meeting, this gentleman was very, he was,
Knowledgeable.
yeah, very knowledgeable, and it was hard for him to bring it down to our understanding, but he knew what he was talking about, and he's worked on this in a lot of counties in the state, so.
Just a little bit more budget news. Governor Shapiro presented his $51 billion budget on, early in February. It was a $75 million proposed increase to basic ed, $40 million increase to special education funding, $100 million in the safety and security grants, that $125 million into the school facilities grant that I referenced earlier, and then $5.5 million increase into career technical centers. But it comes with a lot of opposition from, the Democrats and, or more so the Republicans than the Democrats at this time, because they're looking at a $47 billion revenue stream coming in. So he's already upside down trying to pull out of ready funds. So it's going to be a difficult budget year. We are looking at some increases, nothing too great at this time, if that proposed budget is approved as it is, and we know there's going to be a lot of fluctuation between now and June 30th. So more to come on that. And then Cliff, I'll finish off. We did have a Clarion County-wide Act 80 Day today for all the teachers and administrators. We met in Clarion area, and we started off the day with a gentleman, Ben Hartcraft. He came in and spoke about autism and living with it. His family was there and really did a really nice presentation for the entire staff. Everybody was super involved. And then we also had Dr. Joseph Yun up there. He was from Pitt. He's traveled the country, and he focused in on AI. And he talked about artificial intelligence and how we should be incorporating that into day-to-day education within the districts K through 12. But he also said that you still have to learn the skills, being a plumber, being an electrician, having that's going to be really, really important. And I thought he did a really good job as far as having us understand how AI could impact education moving forward, and how to not only embrace it, but move cautiously. And it was a good day. And then in the afternoon, we had breakout sessions with Pennsylvania Department of Education as well as Batam. So it was a good learning day today for everybody. And Cliff, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Consideration to approve the 2025-2026 district calendar as attached. So moved.
Second?
So you don't need it?
No, unless you want to share with that technology.
Okay, sorry, Cliff. We were talking about PSBA's policy, I brought it along.
So moved and
We
seconded.
moved and seconded.
Okay, all those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Consideration to advertise for 28 days the comprehensive plan as attached. Academic standards and assessment requirements for 25 through 28. Student services assurances for 25 through 28. Gifted education plan assurances 25 through 28. Professional development plan for 25 through 28. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Do we need to vote on C?
No.
Just read through it.
Just for our information, those enrollment numbers are there.
There they are. Special education report, please.
Yeah, hi. Nice to meet everyone. Finally, I've been watching you guys virtually, so it's good to be actually at the table here. I've worked in special education for about 16 years now. It's where my passion has always been since I started. I can't thank you enough for the welcoming. You've got fantastic staff here. All of these wonderful people to the left of me, Dr. McDivitt. It's just it's a welcoming community. You can kind of tell that the second you walk in. So I wanted to at least thank you for that and the opportunity to serve you. It's been a busy 2 weeks. I've only been here for 2 weeks, but it has been busy. We did all of our early intervention meetings already. We have a potential 9 students coming in for those students. We plan to send out our permission to evaluate. We'll have those at the end of May, and have them come in for the kindergarten registration. We've also done our extended school year and all of our meetings for Westview as well as the district here. Our determination meetings will be at the end of February to see for extended school year students. I've been working with Meg over at Westview and those policies and procedures and just what that enrollment looks like for our special education students over there, and working with some of the transition. That is my expertise. I was a transition coordinator for 10 years prior to coming here. we are graduating some of the students off of their roles to really gear that towards transition. And so I'm excited to start working with Meg and Lisa and the team over there as well. They all talked about bocce, but that was one of my selling points. So we actually started bocce out in a more northern area and did that for almost 10 years. So I'm excited that Megan's interested in doing that here at Megan Bashline. I'm working with her and bringing that inclusive environment even more than the bocce this year. Any questions?
Well, glad to have you on board.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Police report?
You have it in front of you if you have any questions.
Thank you. And that's all.
Okay, we will move on to policy. John, would you do policy?
Yes. A consideration to approve the second reading of policy number 005-organization as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Just remember that from this point on, any of our committees will need to have a chairperson and somebody keeping notes that they can report back to the board.
Are we going to assign those?
We can assign them, or you guys can just, in your committee, elect somebody, or volunteer,
It
or
just
I
needs
can
to be on
assign.
record who's what. I mean,
Excuse me?
we just need to put on record who's
Yeah,
doing what.
yeah, and then kind of have some notes that we keep as pertaining, it happens at all those meetings.
Okay.
And I know, like, when we had our last tech meeting, I sent you guys all a copy of the notes, so it's kind of like the procedure that we'll follow now for any of the committees, just to keep everybody up to date, so you know what's going on.
So would we just put those on the shared drive or?
We can put them on our Google Shared Drive.
Well, that's a good idea.
That's usually what, yeah. In fact, Sarah, if you want to make another folder in that, and just, we could add what committee reports, and those can all be uploaded there, so that they're accessible anytime you need them. Sometimes when you email them, we all get inundated with emails and it gets lost, so that way at any time we could check that out if you have questions, so.
Sarah, when you make that folder, could you make it like committee specific instead of just a general committee report?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so any other questions? Are you okay with just, as you meet, determining who you want to be the chairperson? And then just report back to us once you know who that is, or, rather than me assigning, pardon?
Chairperson and secretary?
Yeah, and if they can be the same person, it's totally up to however you guys want to do your meeting. So, and it doesn't have to be, a 4-page report, but just kind of an outline of what you discussed so that everybody's on board or understands what's going on. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, any other suggestions? All right, so we're good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
B, consideration to approve the second reading of policy number 308, employment contract/board resolution as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
C, consideration to update board policy number 610, purchase subject to bid quotations to reflect 2025 thresholds of $23,800 for bids and $12,900 for quotation. In addition, attachment to board policy number 626, federal fiscal compliance for the same. So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. This is just a requirement by the state that every year they change those values, usually about what we have to use, the thresholds for bidding. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
D, consideration to cease the use of 2024 Title IX regulations and policies and return to the policies and procedures adopted with the 2020 Title IX regulations. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? That's a federal issue, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, could we have the maintenance report, please?
Evening, everyone. Up at the high school, we've just been working on some rooftop units and air handlers, just kind of working out some issues that come up. The elementary, last month I forgot to mention, we did have our 10-year inspection by Tremco good. Tremco's been a great company to work with. Any issues we have, they're out in a timely manner and get taken care of. We did get a new filtration system for the steamer down here. Those units were put in approximately 2 years ago. Just with water issues, we've been battling a lot of repairs on those sensitive parts. So we tried a different filtration system, see if that helps. To check into additional parking lot repairs and quotes. We'll be doing a little bit of work out front here, just get some quotes for budget numbers. Still kind of have some issues popping up with sidewalks just from the freeze-thaw settling. And that might be a project we'll have to kind of dive into this summer, if the budget permits, just to maybe jackhammer out some areas and actually re-concrete them, because we have patched some areas and, they're starting to break up again. So it's going to need a little bit more extensive work. District-wide, we did have that oil water advisory there at the end of January for the leak, so we're just flushing some lines, got that taken care of. I did meet with Playing Surface Solutions last week about the football field. Met with Tyler, came and just did a quick evaluation, and he's got to get a report over to David once he gets that put together. He just kind of mentioned, threw like a $300,000 budget number out there just to kind of renovate it. There'll be no drainage included with that. But
Did you say there will be no drainage or there will be drainage? No drainage
additional
included.
drainage,
Okay.
yeah, just
Yep.
going off what we have. And I've got some prices on rollout irrigation, so if we do a project, we're gonna have to water it, and then that leads to, talking with Foxburg Water Company, make sure we get that, water usage supplied, effectively. And, I think that kind of covers it as far as the field. I mean, we're gonna look into maybe some equipment possibly, on this year, and just kind of work at that slowly. And just still waiting to get that catch box replaced, the elementary driveway down to Fox Field, as soon as the weather breaks here, once October. That's all I have.
Okay?
Did you say PSS is going to send a report, like a more in-depth report?
Yeah,
But-
he's just gonna kind of give an evaluation. I mean, they recommended doing like a GIS mapping just to get elevation and stuff to start with. That's something they could do, or we could try to do in-house just to get a baseline to start with.
Is he going to give us different options, like, minimum, like different options?
I think
Like-
so. We'll see what he comes up with. I mean, in his eyes, it wouldn't take much.
Okay,
They
good.
do some pretty extensive projects, and I think they could possibly, do the project in general, maybe this year, maybe next year. I don't know. I mean, that's down the road, but at least just give us a number.
Sure.
So they didn't give you a time frame on when the field would be usable if we move forward on it, or?
He told me on the phone that if we did it this spring, we could play it in the fall. He said the following fall, the grass would be much thicker and it'd be a better playing surface, but you could get it on in the fall.
In the fall?
We wouldn't practice on it, we'd keep it just for game day until we got the build up.
Okay, so my question is, we voted as a board to move those games back in 2022. So is it just a vote by us to bring the games back, or does Union have to be involved in that?
You mean, once we renovate the field, or,
Well, whenever we decide we want to take a vote as far as bringing the football games back.
I think.
If just we have to vote on
I
that?
don't think it needs to be voted on, it's agreed upon. Look, Union's willing to play here
Yeah.
if we fix the field. Like, it's not, they're perfectly okay with playing games here.
They'd love to
Fields-
bring over half the game.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with basketball, we split the games equally, try to split these with the co-op sports, but we've always tried to do that.
So then, do we as a board have to make a motion, or do
No,
we just
I
say we're
tell
having the
Scott
games?
Kendall- I just tell Scott Kendall, we're gonna split the games this year, as soon as it's fixed, and I think everybody would be agreeable to that as long as we take care of our end of things.
Yeah.
We had voted though to move them for that 1 year, so does that mean we're okay to have them back then? This year?
Yeah, part of the agreement is we try to split things equally.
I just didn't
I
know
don't
if we
know.
needed a vote.
I don't know that it needs a vote, but you guys can, I mean, if you need to, I don't know that it requires a vote, it's part of the agreement.
Okay. That was my question. I wasn't sure how, what,
Dr. George, would you agree with that?
I would agree. I'm not even sure, I can't remember back if we actually voted on not having these.
we did.
For one specific.
2022.
We found a motion from 2022 for that school year.
I mean, it's, the agreement between both schools was originally 50-50, of course, which doesn't really happen because of the odd number of games. But an agreement between both districts, we can do whatever we want when it comes to it.
So if the committee comes back and says we're ready to play games, then we just say, okay, we're holding games here.
Yeah.
And-
As far-
Absolutely.
And is there field turf in Union?
No.
No, but but what I'm saying is, I'm asking the question, if our field suffers a monsoon and we can't play there the next day, we can just easily move it over to Union. So there's not like a process, we get just a phone call. Okay.
I think just to eliminate all the red tape between it, we just evaluate the field at that time, make that decision, and have a game ASAP as soon as it's ready.
Okay? Any other questions on that? All right, we'll move on to transportation. Brady, could you do that for us?
Sure. Consideration to approve the request from Federal Transportation to add a 2012 Dodge Caravan VIN number as attached to their fleet. So
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
consideration to approve the 24-25 van contract with Urban Transportation for 2012 Dodge Caravan 1429 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the 24-25 van contract with Michelle Eiler for the 2020 Chrysler Pacifica 5690 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Myers Transportation to add a 2016 Honda Odyssey VIN number as attached to their fleet. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the 24-25 van contract with Clinton Ace for the 2016 Dodge Caravan 4316 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Barbara Bussing to remove Melinda Hoffman as a driver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Clinton Ace to remove Aaron Albert as a driver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Barbara Bussing to add Michael Burt pending receipt of all appropriate paperwork and an interview with the administration as a driver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Myers Transportation to remove Billy Bobbert as a driver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. All right, Diane, could you do miscellaneous?
Sure. We have a career center report?
Sure. So we met about a month ago at the last meeting there. We did hire a school police officer for the career center. I don't remember the start date on that, David, but it was through
I don't recall.
but Tracy was able to interview a couple of them, and he's a retired state trooper from the area. So we're excited to have him join our force up there, and she's looking forward to that. The Career Center students are going to lots of skills competitions right now for their respective shops. Some of them are placing very well across the state, regionally as well. A big thing that we decided to do at the last board meeting was to no longer take any applicants for the culinary program at the Career Center. We are going to close that department, that shop, in 3 years. So the current 11th and 12th grade students will graduate from that program. starts. And then the current 10th graders, we're either going to try to find a year-long substitute to finish out their kids so they can obtain their certificate, or they'll have option to go into a shop of their choice. The reasoning for closing that shop was the declining enrollment in that shop is very low. It's into the single digits in the afternoon. And the morning run is getting that way as well. And Tracy surveyed the stakeholders, community members, students to see what their interest levels were. And it's just not in culinary arts right now. The students that are graduating with that program and the available jobs in the area are not there at all. There's not a whole lot of places around here that are hiring, executive chefs and pastry chefs and whatnot. So once that program is closed, then we're going to add in an intro to education. Again, surveying all the students, some of the top options were HVAC technicians, electricians, and the students really wanted an intro to the teaching course. So that's going to be a relatively cost-effective course to implement in there. There's not a whole lot of materials, the curriculum we have to buy. The biggest expense is just going to be the teacher itself. I think that's about it. If there's anything there.
Just that new roof and the handlers on.
Oh, yeah, so Tracy has been working on a grant to obtain a new roof for the Career Center and replace, I think, all the HVAC systems at the Career Center there. So we're going to start on that project. We're supposed to start on that in the spring, I do believe. Move my report.
Thank you. We have the intermediate unit report.
Not much to report from last meeting. The bulk of the meeting was personnel issues, some policy updates, but not much else to report.
Do we have any correspondence?
No.
We did not have a technology committee update. did we?
No, not since January. We haven't vetted him.
And same with the athletic committee, we don't have an update.
We did have a joint athletic committee meeting.
That's right, we did.
And we basically just discussed the field, and the renovations there. Also, the number of coaches and volunteers, which we've adopted tonight, and coaching salaries and budgeting for next year. On a side note, I will be meeting with the administration from union next week and getting ready for the budgeting season for athletics for 25-26.
Finance committee report?
No report.
Updates?
Okay?
Okay.
I do have an athletic committee, an athletic committee, a football field committee.
Okay.
So honestly, everything we've all talked about the field has already been said. Just a quick wrap up, getting some quotes from the field from Playing Solutions.
Playing surface solutions.
Yeah, PSS, also you heard about that. James is looking into getting some field maintenance equipment, looking to buy the equipment to get ahead of the ball for once the field is completed. That we can actually effectively maintain the system of the field, just like James said about irrigation. So I know he's looking at some numbers into what's going to cost for equipment. Somewhere in the less than $20,000 range, somewhere in there. Be nice if we have budget available to get that this year before next year's budget. That way, it's not going to cost anything to have to sit here versus us trying to scramble to get it after the field is done. Obviously, that might be put in a football field renovation budget, but I know maybe trying to get our hands on some of the equipment sooner than later. That's about it right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any old business? Any new business? Okay, not hearing anything.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Thank
Good night.
you. Be careful going home. Stay warm.